it's a single digit percentage. And so she is very talented in that part of her life as well. She has 2 adult children, 2 grandchildren. In 2016, she co-founded the annual garden extravaganza, Cooper Young Garden Walk, which celebrates over 90 plus inspiring urban gardens in Cooper Young. Her favorite quote is, you get what you celebrate, by Dean Kamen. Kim believes that beautiful spaces have the power to change a city. Her mission is to grow open garden tours and special garden events throughout the Mid-South for the express purpose of bringing garden tourism to our city. Garden tourism is the second fastest growing tourism sector, just behind food tourism. And another thing, we really need to thank Kim. She is scheduled for a test today that was going to be right now, but she was able to make arrangements so she could be here, but to be recertified as a master gardener. And we'd love to hear more about that. Let's give a round of applause for our good friend, Kim. Thanks, everybody. I'm excited. Well, okay, you got it?
I'm trying to get our...
Okay.
Can you ask them if they see it online? Can they see your screen?
Can you see the screen online, those of you?
PowerPoint?
I can't.
Can we turn the lights down too? I think it'll be brighter if we do that.
Just keep talking.
Okay, well, while I'm waiting, I want to remind everybody that the Cooper Young Garden Walk is May 21st and 22nd. We will have approximately 100 gardens on tour, 23 art vendors, 23 educational booths and speakers, backbeat shuttle bus if you don't feel like walking to all those places. We'll have restaurant discounts. We'll have musicians in the gardens. I'm going to talk about curb appeal today, but I hope that after I get done talking about it, you feel inspired to come to the walk so you can see a lot more wonderful ideas to make your own. Okay, so are we good now?
Yeah, they can see it.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so I'm going to show you today how you can add curb appeal to your outside. I know that you have beautiful homes on the inside, and so what I'd like to help you do is make it the same on the outside, and not only beautiful, but functional, and make it your own so that it has your own personality. Thank you. All right, so this is going to seem counterintuitive to you, but the first thing that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go inside your house and look out all your windows and doors, because we spend more time inside our house than we do outside. So we want, when we look out this window, just like this cat is doing, we want to look at a beautiful space. And if you make the spaces outside your windows and doors beautiful, your yard is going to be beautiful. Then I want you to go across the street and sit on your neighbor's porch or in their front yard. And I want you to look at your garden as though you were a walker, a biker, or a drive-by. And I want you to look at it and say, gosh, does my house have style? Is it cozy? Is it inviting? Is it color coordinated? Do the things that I have in my yard go with the style of my house? As you are designing your outdoor space, I don't want you to feel intimidated by it. I wish somebody would have told me this years ago, but really, if you can design your indoor space, it's the same thing. Designing a living room is the same as designing the same outside your space, same principles. And then the next rule I want you to think of is multiple zones. I really think that in America, we have a good portion of our yard, which is generally the front yard, that is not used at all. We put a few plants in, we get out of our driveway, go in our front door, and we never use any aspect of our front yard. And I hope that you will start realizing that it's important real estate and that we need to do something with it. Next, thank you. So there are some simple tips to begin, but take a look at the picture on the left. That is a garden in Bartlett that we're looking out their window in their family room. And you see how beautiful it is. So every time you walk by one of your windows, you should have a fabulous view. Now, how do we get something like that? So some very simple tips to begin, which again, I wish somebody had told me 40 years ago. I could have saved a lot of money and frustration in my yard. I corrected the spelling on the other one, but apparently that one's not corrected. So ignore that I'm missing a T in palette. So choose a color palette and stick with it. So for example, I have 2 color palettes in my yard, one for the front and one for the back. And so when I'm buying plants, whether they're on sale or not, I say to myself, does that fit my color palette? If it does not fit, don't even bring it home, because you're going to go crazy trying to figure out where to put it, and it's not going to work. The same thing with your cushions and everything in your yard. Once you choose a color palette, don't vary from that, okay? Unless you get to be very great at it, and then you can throw random colors in. The second rule I suggest is that you choose a theme. And I have a theme in my backyard that is farm theme. So I grew up on a farm for part of my life. So when I was doing my backyard, I decided I wanted to carry that feeling over. And so you'll see a picture where I show that. But if you have a formal house, then of course you need to decide on your theme, because your furniture and everything that you put out there needs to go along with the theme. Structure, line, and repetition. That picture there is a great one, because the fence and the path creates lines, and your eye, as humans, we are drawn to structure and line and repetition. You can see the structure of the gazebo that has a swing in it, and the structure of the pond. There's repetition with all the yellow plants and with the evergreens. And then an important, an important thing when you're buying your plants, we always buy the pretty things first, the annuals and that. But when you are doing your living room, I bet you didn't start with the frame. I bet you started with the couch and the chairs. So you want to start with your big pieces first and get them in the yard. And then at the very end, when everything is the way it should be, then you go in and you buy your annuals and that. And then also, to really make your garden unique, you want to add whimsy. And if you have hobbies or collections or art, all of those things say who you are. So we want your garden to look like you are and not like a magazine. Okay, next. So here is a wonderful example in Cooper Young. I absolutely adore this garden. And why I love it so much, it has all those principles that I just talked about. Now, this was probably taken probably in March. Okay, so you don't see any flowering plants. But what do you see? You see a color scheme, yellow, white, black, with some touches of red. You see strong lines leading your eyes up to the door. And then to enforce that line, they put these little fences. So your eye is just drawn in. Lots of evergreens. We tend to not buy evergreens because we think they look boring at the plant store. They do kind of look boring, but look how they add accentuation, and they're like exclamation points. So even in the middle of winter, when there is nothing really showing in this yard, you have those sticking up and they're defining the yard and making it cozy. And then look at the 2 chairs. I don't know how often they sit in those 2 chairs, but I'm a firm believer you can never have enough chairs and benches in your yard. And I'll tell you why. If you're inside and you're looking out and you see those 2 chairs, your brain immediately sits itself in those 2 chairs and you feel relaxed, even if physically you're still in the house. And it does that same thing for people who are walking by. It invites a moment of respite. If you live in a fancy house out east, again, you still have to take the architecture of your house into context. Look at the colorings of the house, the brick, the shutters, the door, and then look how the Japanese maple and the hydrangea, they have color echoes. So again, pick your palette and stick with it. Can you imagine if I threw in some orange plants in here? You know, or maybe bright yellow. It just really wouldn't go. So figure out your color and your theme, and you're halfway there. Another great yard in Cooper Young. If you see a little pink flower up in the corner, it's a garden in Cooper Young. So I love the way these saucer magnolias sort of frame the house. And then you've got that strong line leading up to the porch. This is a grass lawn for the most part. And we're going to talk about grass lawns and no lawns. Okay. All right, so another thing that makes your house have great curb appeal is focus on the porches, front and back. You may not realize it, but your porch is like an outdoor living room, or perhaps you need an outdoor office, or you need an outdoor place to entertain. But I treat my porches like inside rooms, and I decorate them that way. And that just makes it so much easier. Just make sure you stick with your color scheme and make sure you use outdoor friendly materials and you're good to go. This house on the left, they used haint blue paint on the ceiling. That is meant to deter spirits, evil spirits, and also to keep the bugs off your porch. And I have it on my porch now, and I swear by it. I don't seem to have as many bugs. This garden here is, look at this fabulous porch, and then look at the view outside. You should always be thinking about the view outside where you're sitting. Okay, so no matter where you are, it always looks great. Okay. Wow. All right, this is my back. This used to be a carport. My husband had a stroke a couple years ago. Unfortunately, he's not able to drive anymore. So we converted this space into this huge outdoor area where, and you see my farm motif going on. There's an eating place. There's a whole seating area that you can't see. There's a television out there. Go with your personality. That's what makes yards interesting. Most of us, I think, would find that the very pristine, plain yards really don't grab our attention. We want some personality. So let's talk about lawn or no lawn. There is a big movement right now. People are putting in more natives. I'm not going to, I'll tell you where I fall, but it doesn't really matter. There's a place for both. But what I would like you to notice is up on the top picture, this is a backyard. They have very deep beds with shrubs and perennials and everything. And that can get kind of messy over the season, right? But if you have very defined grass area, it's going to look good even when it gets a little wild. So I think one of the best rules I can tell you is to edge the edges. There's something about strong lines that humans just really prefer. The garden below, I just love it. This is a tiny front garden in Cooper Young. And I want you to imagine cars parked on the street behind those shrubs. So this is a great way to hide what all of us have, no matter what neighborhood you live in, is we have cars on the street. And those are blueberry bushes and shrubs in that. They made a little keyhole garden in their front yard. Normally there is a teal bench out there. So again, your mind just wants to, you can walk by and sit down in that bench, or your mind can look out from the porch and want to sit down on that bench. This is crushed limestone in my friend's garden. She grows vegetables, but her whole backyard is crushed limestone. I have crushed limestone too. Number 10 is the best. If you ever decide to go that route, never go with pebbles. You want the tiny crushed limestone that packs down nicely, and you'll have low maintenance. Okay, another front garden. Here's another way to treat a front yard. Look across the street at the peach colored house, typical yard with some foundation plants and a green rug in front. How often do you think any of them in that house over there actually spend any time in their front yard? Look at this yard here. They've taken the driveway and the sidewalk, they've put flagstone in, and they've put all these shrubs in. And so when they're sitting on their porch, they're seeing plants. They're not seeing grass, and they're not seeing cars. And I promise you, this yard here takes less to maintain than a grass yard does, that you have to mow every 10 days, water, fertilize, weed, etc. So just something to think about. If you're into grass, I know my husband was for many years. I thought he was going to have a heart attack when I took the grass out, but he actually likes not having it now. But again, you can have a big area of grass, but the mistake that we do is we put the grass in first, and then we put the plants in after. A landscaper will tell you that you define the negative space where you want the grass to go, and all the space around it is trees and shrubs. So put in the positive space first. Then when you put in your grass, you've got the emphasis in the right place. And again, look at the strong lines.
Right.
That makes it beautiful. So one thing I'd love for you all to think about is making use of all parts of your yard. Create multiple zones. This yard has about 8 zones and you can't even see them all, but he's got an oriental zone. He's got a sitting zone, an entertaining zone, a cooking zone, a place to grow vegetables, a place where there's a swing, and it's always changing. The more spaces you put in your garden, the more you'll use them, the more it will be intriguing and you'll want to be out there, and you'll just appreciate your yard more. Okay, this is a garden in Bartlett, and he has multiple zones in the front and back of his house. Anywhere in his yard you could go and you would be happy. And he's got a curved path that goes all the way around the yard. So as you go through the yard, you have different places to sit. And of course, then you'll have different views to see. So he's going to have wildlife, he's going to have pollinators. It's just a lovely garden. So I'd like you to be thinking that when he's inside his house looking out, isn't this a much grander view than a piece of grass that's not really doing anything for you? This is a tiny shotgun home in Cooper Young. This is Chris Harris. I absolutely love his garden. He is a renter, and he is a designer for a store. So he's always changing things around, but in this tiny little postage stamp yard, you go around and you go to these different areas. And he likes to say that 95% of all the things in his yard were either given to him or found on the side of the road. And I attest that that green screen there used to be in my yard. So it's got a new home. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say about him, he has been such an inspiration to his street that now 5 other homes on his street are on the walk this year. And it's because of him and him helping them with their yards. So that's the power of, if you beautify a space, then other people want to beautify their spaces. Okay. Here's another example of zones, and look at those clean lines. Look at the color coordination. You've got your eating zone, you've got your sitting zone. This is the fire chief's house in Memphis, and she has a lot of fire memorabilia through her yard. So whatever your job is or your hobby that you want to incorporate in your yard, I think that's great. If you're into golf, you could put a little putting zone in your garden, and this is a garden out east. Water is a great thing to have in your yard, both front and back. This is a garden in Buffalo, New York. This is a garden in Germantown. Instead of putting in a swimming pool, they put in a swimming pond. And then this is a garden in Cooper Young, and it's just a simple little cylinder in the front yard that the birds and the cats and pets and all come and drink from. And it's just a great little feature. This is my back screened in porch. So another water feature that you might not have considered is having a shower outside or a tub. And yes, it does work. And I tell people it's great for washing the dog. It's great on a hot day, filling up with cold water. It's like a hot, cold tub for the summer. You can take a shower, or you can fill it with ice and wine and beer. So think about, I'm always thinking about functionality. What can I make this space do? Okay. If you have great little odd pieces, if you like recycled stuff, my suggestion is to group them, just like in a house. If you have a little tchotchke here and there, they don't really shine, but if you group them together, you color coordinate them, you add some plants, and suddenly you have this great little vignette that would be fun to look out a window and see. If you have window boxes or planters, I say go big or go home. You know, look how colorful that is. When they're sitting on the porch, they're not going to see the traffic. They have this wonderful thing to look at, and so does everybody else. Adding art to your garden. You can get art at any of the box stores or garden stores, but hey, what about that piece? I mean, that's pretty incredible. These 2 pictures are actually from Buffalo Garden Walk. And I mean, that's something that's going to last a lifetime, right? And you're going to enjoy it for a lifetime. If you have a mundane shed in your yard, and who doesn't? I mean, you know, hey, run with it. get creative with it. This is a Harry Potter shed. And I mean, I have been to this shed in Buffalo probably 4 times now. And over the years, over a 20-year span, he has just kept upping his game. This shed was actually in a magazine recently. It's just fabulous to look at. Okay, if you have grandchildren or even children on your street that would enjoy a fairy garden, they're fun to build. And I just created one this year in a wheelbarrow for my grandson. So when he comes to visit, it'll be right at eye level for him. All 3 of these pictures are from Buffalo, and there's bowling balls there and a big sculpture. And if you're into animals like I am, then you might want to put a doggy spa on the outside of your front garden and welcome your neighbors as they're walking by. So, okay, so this is the map of the Cooper Young Garden Walk for this year. And you can see that we have gardens all throughout the neighborhood. So if you are looking for inspiration to bring curb appeal to your home, I would love for you to come look at our gardens. Next one. These are the descriptions of all the gardens, and we have chickens and we have edibles and not vegetables. I keep calling them edibles, but we have artist venues and education, and again, a shuttle bus. So if you'd like more inspiration, I would love for you to like, follow, and share our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. We're at Cooper Young Garden Club and Cooper Young Garden Walk. We are 501c3. Join our mailing list. We'd love for you all to buy tickets to our walk, spread the word, but most importantly, go outside and beautify your outdoor space and make your street beautiful. And as your street becomes beautiful, your neighborhood becomes beautiful, as does our city. So anyway, thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
There seems to be a lot of talk recently about not only chickens in the backyard, but also honeybees.
Yes.
And I saw where now they've got a company that actually will give you a box of honeybees. You got to buy it, I suspect, but you'll come in your backyard and set it up and, and learn how to service it.
The one thing you have to be aware, though, if the city is spraying for mosquitoes in that and you have honeybees, you run the risk of losing them. Now you can sign forms with the city that say, don't spray by my yard, but you know how the wind carries things. So if you know they're gonna spray, you might wanna cover them up so that you don't lose your bees.
How much is the Cooper Young Garden Walk?
So if you buy your tickets before May 9th, it's only $20, and that ticket gets you into 2 days of all the gardens you can possibly wanna see. After that, it goes up to $25. And I hope you'll buy early. Plus, we have prizes if you buy early. So, yeah. And then you can go to the CooperYoungGardenWalk.org and you'll buy tickets there. Yes.
How do you do the hat contest?
Oh, thank you for reminding me about the hats. I almost forgot. Okay, so this year we're having a hat contest. So think about the Kentucky Derby, but with a gardening theme.
Oh.
And first prize, best of show, is $200 worth of garden certificates to nurseries and things like that. Wow. So, you know, be whimsical, be stylish, however you want to be it. We are going to pick winners, and we'd love for all of you to wear hats there. And I have to tell you, American Gardener magazine had us in their issue this month, and they actually had 2 pictures of our gardens. So this is the first time we've ever gotten national recognition. So I am so, so excited. And the other thing is Carmion Hamilton is going to be our keynote speaker at the Botanic Garden, May 20th, which is Friday. She's going to be talking about designing with houseplants, growing them. She is a Memphian who won the HGTV design contest. Tickets are only $10, and we will have hors d'oeuvres and food. So consider your dinner. Just come and hear her talk, and then go to the garden walk on the 21st. So,
yeah. When somebody does the garden walk, as you approach their house, do they have like, this is where we'd like you to go?
Yeah,
will somebody take you back through the yard?
You're on your own. It's self-guided, but there will be big signs in front of every garden, and it will say front, back, strollers, dogs. So many of the gardens will let you bring your dog. If it's stroller friendly or wheelchair friendly, it will be checked. And you'll have a wristband, and you'll get a huge map, 16 by 22 map. So you won't have to print anything off. You can just walk around. We will have a shuttle bus. It is a 40-seat shuttle bus. It's Backbeat Tours. Now, it's so big, it cannot go down all the little side streets. So there'll have to be certain streets. And when you see it go by, just raise your hand and say, hey, stop, I want to get on. Go to a different quadrant. Or take your car, go to one quadrant, visit those gardens, get back in your car, drive to another little section, visit those gardens. And you have 2 full days. So, and yes.
Do you guys have anybody who teaches you how to do it? Because right now I feel everything.